The text was a casual shrug of a text, like it was a normal thing we always did. Hey, just FYI, this year's birthday for Mom is going to be adults only. Kids are great, but money's tight, and Mom just wants a chill night. Hope that's okay. I stared at the message from my sister, Linda, for what felt like forever. It wasn't the first time she'd said something that felt off, but this one hit different. I was standing in my kitchen, my son John at the table finishing his homework, my daughter Ellie coloring on the floor. I looked at them, and an immediate dread settled in my stomach. How was I supposed to explain this? My mom's birthday party was a tradition, and now I was supposed to tell them it wasn't happening because money was tight. The hypocrisy was a punch to the gut. Linda had been living in my basement for the last 8 months, rent-free. I was covering groceries for 6 people, paying for her daughter's daycare, letting her use my car, my Netflix, my everything. So if anyone had the right to be a little strapped, it was me. But she said no party, so fine, no party. Saturday morning came and went. I didn't think about it until after lunch when I opened Facebook just to scroll for a minute. There it was, an album from Linda, 43 photos, captioned, "Happy birthday to the best mom in the world." My stomach immediately tightened. The first photo was my mom smiling in front of a giant silver balloon arch. The second, a group shot. Linda, Mom, Dad, 4 of our cousins, all their kids, and even the neighbor's toddler. The third, a table overflowing with catered Italian food, a bounce house in the yard. My stomach turned with every picture. There were over a dozen kids in those photos, and not one of them was mine. Just then, John walked up behind me and leaned on my shoulder, squinting at the screen. "Wasn't there no party?" he asked. The question was a physical blow. A calm, cold fury settled in my stomach. I walked downstairs to the office, opened my drawer, and pulled out the white envelope I always prepped for Linda at the start of each month. Inside was the $970 I gave her for rent. I grabbed a Sharpie and in huge black letters wrote, "Return to sender," across the front. I snapped a picture of it and sent it to her. No text, no message, just the photo. 40 minutes later, my phone started buzzing. First Linda, then Dad, then Linda again. I let it ring. For the first time in a long time, I wasn't going to make things easier for her. She had made her choices, and now I was going to make mine. She showed up at my door around 8 p.m. I didn't even have to look. Linda always knocked in sets of 3. She was standing there alone, arms crossed, wearing a t-shirt from the party with a giant glittery Mom's Birthday Bash 2025 logo across the front. I just stared at her. She started with a deep breath and that fake calm voice she used when she was about to lie. It was a small thing. Mom wanted to keep it low-key, and it just got bigger than expected. You know how people are. It wasn't some big conspiracy against you. I didn't move. I just asked one thing. Just one. Why did you tell me there was no party? Her mouth opened and closed like she was trying to pick the right version of the lie. She finally landed on, "Because your kids are loud. They run around. Mom just wanted one day without that." I said nothing. Just stood there. She added, "You're making a huge deal out of something that wasn't about you." And that was it. That was the moment everything clicked for me. This wasn't about the party. It wasn't even about my kids. It was about control. For 8 months, she'd lived off me like it was owed to her. I never asked her to pay me back. I never made her feel small for needing help. I told her I wasn't paying for her life anymore. The rent was on her now. If she wanted to live here another month, she'd have to cover it herself. She actually laughed at me, said I was being petty and dramatic. I stepped back and shut the door without another word. The next morning she was gone. Not fully. Her stuff was still downstairs, but she wasn't home. That night, my dad showed up. This time he didn't have a six-pack. He looked pissed. "You're not going to kick your sister out over a birthday party, are you?" That's how he saw it. Like I was throwing a tantrum. I asked him if he knew about the party. Of course he did. He was in half the pictures. He tried to act like he was just following Linda's lead. "You know how your sister is. We didn't want drama." Then he said something that stayed with me for the rest of the week. "She's family. You don't punish family for being flawed." I didn't argue. I didn't scream. I just nodded and walked back to the garage. That night, I changed the Wi-Fi password, disconnected her devices. I didn't tell her, I just did it. For years, my parents had treated Linda like she was made of glass and me like I was built to carry weight. Linda gets grace, I get guilt. Lisa gets excuses, I get expectations. I was done. 2 days later, I came home from work, and the basement was half empty. Her clothes were gone, her daughter's toys were packed, food was gone from the fridge. She didn't say goodbye, but I knew this wasn't over, not even close. For a week, Linda was silent. I think she expected me to come crawling back, maybe send some apology cash with a "let's not fight" message. That's how it always went. The storm came the following Sunday. My mom called. "We need to talk," she texted. "Please don't do this to your sister. She's having a hard enough time." I didn't answer. The next morning, my dad showed up again. This time he didn't have a six-pack. He looked pissed. "You're not going to end this nonsense now," he said, walking right in. "She's your sister. She needed help. You gave it. But now you're turning into the enemy over a birthday party. That's petty." I'd finally said, "It wasn't just a party. It was a choice. She chose to leave my kids out of something they were supposed to be part of. She lied, she used me, and you helped her." Blinked and laughed like I was a joke. "You think you're the victim here? Linda's got no job, no stability. You think this was easy for her?" I didn't answer. I just walked over to the drawer by the fridge and pulled out a folder. Inside were every receipt, every auto payment I made for Linda over the last 8 months. I dropped it on the counter. Over $7,100. That's what I spent on someone who couldn't even let my son have a piece of birthday cake. He didn't touch the folder. "You're too angry to see clearly," he said. Before he left, I asked him one thing. "Did Mom know John and Ellie weren't invited?" He hesitated, then nodded. "She didn't want to say anything because she didn't want to upset you." That was the last straw. For years, they treated Linda like she was made of glass and me like I was built to carry weight. Linda gets grace, I get guilt. Lisa gets excuses, I get expectations. I was done. I told him to leave. That night, I changed the lock on the basement door. I blocked Linda, Mom, and Dad on everything. A few days later, my doorbell rang at almost 10 p.m. It was my mom, alone. I didn't let her in. She said she didn't want to fight, just wanted me to hear her out. After a few minutes of talking about family and forgiveness, she finally said what she came for. "She's staying with us now. You left her no choice." I almost laughed. She had every choice. She just never thought I'd stop cleaning up after her. Then my mom said something that caught me completely off guard. "She tried to get a job last week. She used your address on the application, and the employer called for a background check and found out about her eviction from last year. She lost the job offer." An eviction? I hadn't known. Linda had told me she just needed a place for a month or two. My mom went quiet. Then, with the most bitter voice I'd ever heard from her, she said, "You took everything from her." I was floored. I took everything? I paid her bills, fed her kid, gave up space in my own house for nearly a year. The moment I stopped, suddenly I was the villain. That night, my wife looked at me and asked, "So, what are you going to do?" I told her, "I'm not done yet." The next morning, I went online. I found out she'd used my name to set up a utility account when she first moved in, and there was an unpaid electric bill of over $1,500 tied to me. I was responsible for it. But before I could even finish gathering the documents, I got an email from John's school. Apparently, Linda had tried to pick up John that afternoon, told them I was overwhelmed and had asked her to help. Thank God they didn't let her take him, but the fact that she even tried, there was no doubt anymore. She wasn't just selfish, she was dangerous. I called my lawyer that night and started the paperwork, a restraining order, documentation of her unauthorized account use. The next time Linda saw me, it wouldn't be at a family dinner. It would be in court. She was served the next day. She showed up at my door within an hour, screaming from the sidewalk. I closed the door and didn't open it again. My dad sent me a voicemail. "We're not that kind of family," was all he said. That stuck with me, not because it was true, but because he believed it. We were exactly that kind of family, the kind where loyalty was demanded, not earned, the kind where guilt was currency, the kind where the only rule was to protect Linda no matter what.
The quiet that followed was the real end. The restraining order was granted. The electric bill was transferred off my name. The legal stuff was over. Then, on a quiet Sunday, John asked me, "Is Grandma mad at me?" My heart ached. "Because we didn't get to go to her party and now you don't talk to her." I told him it wasn't his fault, that sometimes grown-ups make bad choices and have to stay away from each other to be safe. "Are we ever going to see her again?" I didn't answer because I didn't know. That night, a letter was shoved in our mailbox. No envelope, no stamp. Inside were 3 sentences in Linda's familiar handwriting. "You win. They're on your side now, too. I hope it was worth it." I stared at those words for a long time. No apology, no accountability, just blame. And then the first time in my life, I felt completely free. The peace that followed didn't feel unfamiliar.